got the back wall up this morning. We put the house wrap on, and then we lifted the sheets of plywood, put them on, the T111, the siding. All we had to do is we had to do a little notching here. It was only need like a 1/4 inch notched out, but that'll hang down over the edge. It'll keep that wood protected and stuff. So made a nice finish, and it worked out good to where we put our 2-foot one in here, and then had a seam, and then we went 4 foot over, and then another 4 foot. So we had 2 full sheets and 1 half sheet, and seemed like it covered pretty good. So we got that on there. Now we're ready to we'll paint some stain on it, roll it on there, and do the seams, seal it up. It's been raining a little bit almost every evening, so we'll just seal it up. So in case it does rain a little bit, at least we'll have it covered up. And then once we decide what we're going to use, we'll put a trim board, corner boards on these corners and that. But now that we got the walls together, and with the 4x8 sheets of plywood holding it all, it seems like it's good and solid now, like it's going to hold together pretty well. It really made that wall good and solid, so we'll keep going from here. Yeah, it's starting to get too warm again. We're going to have to quit for today, but I get a second coat of stain painted on this this side wall, and then we got the first coat over here on the end wall. Did all the seams by hand and rolled the flat part, so got that on there. But now it's getting out into full sun and that, so it's just getting too darn hot. But I'm excited to see what it looks like when we actually cut the windows in and stuff. But I think I'm going to wait for a little bit just to kind of keep it dry first, and then we'll cut those in a little bit later when we get the roof on it and get it dry. So then we can cut the windows in and get them all set, everything. So anyway, I think that's about it for today. And then probably in the morning, if the weather cooperates with us, probably what we'll do is take these tarps up, and then we'll start framing this wall with the door and the other window in it, and then figure out, after we get that done and get the T111, the siding on it, then we should be able to start trying to figure out how to do the roofs, set the rafters and stuff like that. So I will keep you posted. Okay, we're trying to redo this area here in the front of the house. I think maybe some of our water is draining in here. We dug up and moved these valves over and moved the sewer clean out over, moved the water shut-off valve over, and these are the electric control valves for the sprinkler system and that. So anyway, we're going to let this all dry out. Hopefully that'll keep from getting back in there. But we're going to dig this and put some landscape blocks along here with some plastic to keep the water from draining from the yard back in here towards the house and getting that wet. We'll see if we can make that better. But we're going to go from the steps all the way along over here to Pat's fence between us and see if that'll help some. So. Okay, we're still working on trying to get the water stopped here in the front. So we ran a line and they're putting these blocks in, putting plastic underneath them, making a barrier, and we'll put the dirt up behind them and then put some bark on them And then eventually we want to build a little porch here so we can come out in the evening, come out the front door and sit here, and you know, when it cools down a little someday. But anyway, we got some of them in and got the plastic down in there, and we'll fold it up behind the blocks and backfill it with some dirt, and then we'll fill in bark. But we're trying to eliminate that low spot and do that. But there's definitely a low spot here in the yard, is where it just comes in from the water sewer main, and it just kind of sank down in. So we'll see if this makes a difference or not. Okay, I was going to go ahead while we're working on this, is try to record some under there, as it's still damp under there since we dug that up a couple days ago. I think it's actually, looks to me like it might be drying up a little bit, but you can't really see a whole lot in that. But it's definitely still damp under there, so we'll keep an eye on it in the next few days and see if it dries out more or not. Okay, we're trying to put this back together. Put the blocks in here. Those blocks weigh 65 pounds a piece, so they should stay in place. We put plastic under them and up behind them, so keep water from the lawn from running back in there. And then we got Nick to hold them down, because she's a helper. And then we're going to put fabric down to stop the weed. And then we got bags of bark to go over the top of it. And we moved our sprinkler stuff down there. We went down and around the corner from our valve boxes and all that. So we'll button it up and then we'll give her a try. Well, we were coming along pretty good. We kind of ran out of bark. Other than that, we got it pretty good. And along there, got the plastic underneath it and up. So it should stop any water from the yard draining back into here. And even though it's only been overnight, we're already seeing less water under the house, I think. And then we're also redoing the drip lines on this side. Instead of the soaker hose, I'll put that little fine 1/4 inch tubing, did a pressure reducer, put that in, and then we'll run a drip line, and it has a little button that goes along and goes to each individual plant. We can regulate the amount of water that goes in there. So anyway, so we think we got it looking a little better, and we got to get some more bark, but got in pretty good shape anyway. Got path for the dogs to go down here. Alright, that's what I got done today. Is this morning so far I stood up the last wall. That's just rough framed in for a door. I left the header clear at the top, and then we can shim it down to wherever we need once we get the flooring in and the decking on out here. Figure that out. This window is actually, I read afterwards, it's a single hung window. It's made to go up and down, but I framed it to be in there sideways as a slider, and we're still going to use it that way. I laid it down and tried to use it. I think as long as I shim it, support it well enough, I think it'll last quite a while. So it'll open as a slider, so we're going to do that. So now I've started working on as a to get the rafters done. And since I don't have great skills with doing that, what I did is I just laid it out on the driveway. I put these two wooden stakes in. They're at 10 feet apart, so that's where it represents the outside walls. And then this 2x6 here represents my, will be my ridge pole. It'll be going the other way. But so what I did is I cut one of my 16 footers in half, and then I knew I wanted to do a 6/12 pitch, so the snow and rain and all that run off pretty good. So I used the framing square. I read how to do that. So I marked this cut at the top, 6/12 pitch, put it where it went, up above, and then I use it to mark the bird's mouth down here on that, got it. Then when I had it in place, I marked where the top of the rafter was, measured from what had been the top of the wall up here. That was 32 3/4. So then I made these two little jigs, screwed them on the inside of the wall that'll hold my ridge pole up at that 32 3/4, and then hopefully I can use this as a pattern for my rafters on each side and put them in. So we'll all see. It's in theory it should work anyway, but we'll check out a little bit more of that here. Probably not today, maybe tomorrow, something like that, but I don't know if you can see very well on the video. But what I did is I just ran a 2x6 up right in the center of that wall. Rough framed is 10 feet, so I put it at 5 feet. Went up the height with my 2x6, and then I put a couple 2x4 cleats on there to make a saddle to hold that the ridge pole, the 2x6 ridge pole that I'm going to use. So tomorrow morning I'll try to put the ridge pole up in there. That should hold it in place, and then hopefully I can mark off my rafters and start putting those in. Okay, we're back to the drawing board on the rafters. The 2x6 plan, after talking to my consultant, said that felt like the 2x6s would be too heavy, add too much weight. Really don't need it since it's only 10 foot across here. So I put a ridge pole up, put that in place, and I'm going to use 2x4s. So I went and got some more 2x4s. Then I marked the ridge pole 16-inch centers. So we'll put those. So Kathy's going to come out in a minute and try to help me here put those up. But I think I got the angle figured out here on the chop saw at 27 degrees there. So we got that set, and here's the 2x4s we got for the actual rafters, and then for the I think they're called purlins, but I'm not sure, for the to attach the metal to. They had these bundles of 1x3s that were fairly inexpensive, so I got those, and we're going to put those on, and then we'll screw the metal down through those onto the on the roof. And that also yesterday, just on a side note, this is my table saw I've had forever and been using, and I saw a thing in the paper, this guy that was moving and selling this table saw, so went and got this. It's a Rigid brand table saw. They sell at Home Depot, but it's $500–600 saw. And the guy had it in the paper for 200 bucks, so or on Craigslist. So anyway, I went and got that. But the thing I liked about it, one of the main things, is the fence on it is real easy to slide and adjust, and it has a ruler built in, and then you just push it in one thing and it locks down good and snug so it doesn't move. This also has a 10-inch blade, and it came with a new blade. It's kind of a combination blade. I think it's a 40 tooth or something like that, but carbide and that. So anyway, I'm pretty excited to get that. Seems to be in great shape. It also has a thing where you can roll it around as you pop it up with this lever, and then that puts down a caster wheel, and then there's two wheels on the other side, so you can roll it around in the shop. And then when you get it where you want it, you just pop that, put it back over. Now it's down and the feet are touching, and it holds it in place, so it won't take up as much room on the wall. We're going to store it and that, but so kind of excited to try that out. So anyway, we're going to try to get started and see if we can't put some, I listed the old saw on Craigslist. I'm hoping somebody will come and buy it, but we're going to work on some rafters.
Are you videoing it?
No, you go ahead. That's right. Okay. Well, we got half of the rafters up. We don't have the outside, the flying rafter or whatever. We don't have those cut in yet, but we let the tails just run along. And then once we figure out our metal and how long we want the eave to hang over, then we'll snap a line and we'll do plumb cuts there. But we got all the rafters on this one side up there, and what we did is I marked on the ridge board, I marked 16-inch centers, and so that side we're going to put on this side of the line the 16-inch center, and on this side I'm going to put them on the other side. That way I can nail them straight in with the nail gun, not have to toenail it or anything. And so I should have them attached really good to the ridge board, and then they're almost right across from each other. So that, and then once we do that, then we'll work on attaching them to the walls and put in some blocks in between each one of them. So right now we got these. There's 11 on this side, and so we got them pre-cut. We set up the chop saw out here on a little station with the stand and the chop saw, and we had the 2x4s on the trailer, so we cut those, pre-cut them, and just the top angle, and now we're ready to install them. Alright, we have rafters up. They look like from this angle they're fairly good, and down the ridge pole and over to that side and underneath. So now we got to make all these blocks at the end, and then I'm going to put those hurricane ties on to tie it down with the metal strapping so it doesn't go anywhere, and then we'll have to build the gable ends and make the ones that we need to put one on each end. We know exactly how far our metal will go out. So we still got some more work to do. We're coming along, but at least we got some rafters up. Okay, here's a view of the rafters from down here. Again, the tails are running really long, but we're going to plumb cut those and trim them at the end and try to get them all the same, so I get hopefully that fascia board running fairly straight. And I think on the ends we're only hanging over 6 inches, so I'll have to build those too. But I think I'll put the blocking in and put the hurricane ties on first, and then we'll kind of go from there. So alright, I was going to show how we decided to attach the ends, the wall ends of the rafters. So what we're doing is we cut a block to go in between them. So this block, try to keep these on 16-inch centers. We cut them at 14.5, and then we put 2 16s in from this end into that. Then over at this end, what we've done is I took a Simpson strong tie and we put 2 screws into the rafter, 2 screws into this block, and then 3 screws down into the top of the double plate. And we've done that all the way along, and then that seems like that's making her good and solid, tying that. And then I'll have to run a couple of like ceiling joists or at least collar ties across here to stiffen that up so that the wall can't bow out or anything. But it seems like we've gotten those pretty well in there and got that good and tight. And then this should make it weather tight too, so nothing can come up underneath the eaves, because I'm not sure that we're going to put any soffit in there, anything like that. But Kathy actually came up with the idea of these. I was going to use the hurricane ties, but these here, and let's see, Simpson strong ties. Anyway, I'm not sure exactly what these are called, but what I found is we took these, and then if we bent them at the bottom, then we could go in there and attach them to the, they attach to the rafter, to the block in between the rafters, and then down into the top of the plate. So, and we could put 3 screws down in there in the bottom and really hold it good and snug. And it seems like that's working pretty good. So we're making headway, but it's getting close to noon and it's up in the 90s now, and gosh, inside here there's just no ventilation because we haven't cut the windows in yet or anything, so it's pretty warm. But we still got a lot of work to do, but at least it looks like we're getting kind of a little bit of a roof going. Oh, I'll walk over here and I'll show you what she looks like on the outside. Out here is, so then we'll have those blocks that go along here at the top in between the rafters, and then the rafter tails, like I say, again, we'll cut those off, but it seems like we're getting them tied pretty good and strong along there, and I think it's going to make us a pretty nice roof system. The rafters, I'm glad Dad talked me into going with the 2x4s. They're just a lot easier to handle, and gosh, it sure looks like it's going to be strong enough when and I tried to do a I'm not sure if I got it right or not, but I tried to use a framing square and mark the top end at a 6/12 pitch, and then put my I laid it out in the driveway and then put my ridge pole up to that proper height, and we were just going to let them sit on the bottom of the top plate and then put the blocks in between them. But I think we got them in there pretty good, and it feels like that's tying them down really good. So I'll mail this off to my construction engineer, and then hopefully he won't call me back and tell me I gotta take it all apart again or something. But as long as he isn't here, he won't know. So we're going to go ahead and break for lunch. Okay, we're still working on trying to get the water under the house situation cleared up. So we found a spot here where we think the sprinklers are running back across the little front sidewalk down by the steps, and they're eroding underneath the front porch steps. So I dug out underneath there, formed it up, and poured a little piece of concrete there to slope away and to support the weight of that step, so hopefully it doesn't sink anymore or anything. And we'll adjust the sprinklers, try more to keep it away from the here on the house, and then the shrub bed ones, we got those away from there. So we'll try this, see if that'll help dry it back up. So, but in the meantime, this area over here that we worked on seems like it's doing good, staying good and dry all along here and along this edge. But in the under the crawl space is we're still having water under there, and I just don't know why. We turned the sprinklers off again, and once I turn the sprinklers off, then it starts to dry up. So pretty sure that's where she's coming from, is just the irrigation, the sprinklers and stuff. So now we're gonna do that. We'll let it dry overnight, and then tomorrow we'll turn it back on again and see if we can see what's going on. It's just drying up, but it's still just damp and wet under there, so keep working. Okay, this morning I'm working on filling in the end of the gable ends, cutting the, I guess it'd be studs going from the top of the top plate up to the rafters to hold that. So I'm working on that far end. This morning I got this end done. I got them up there, and then put took down my temporary brace, and then I still got to work on getting my flying truss out there, but we're coming along. I was just going to try to show how I did this. What I'm doing is just kind of following the studs up, but close to 16 inches on center, but I'm notching those so they go the same way as the stud, and then they go and they hold up the rafter out there. I'm drilling them, pre-drilling them, and putting screws through it, cutting them each one individually, and then pre-drilling it and screwing it. So like this one, this will be my stud. So I notch that, set that on the top plate, and then put that there. Then I'm running 2 screws in here that go into the rafter, and then I pre-drilled toenails on each side with 3-inch decking screws and running those in, and then I'll do those all the way up, and that should support that truss here at the gable end. Okay, this morning I'm working on trying to make my gable end eaves, overhangs, flying rafter, whatever you call it. Anyway, how I did this is I notched this last rafter, notched it down in 1.5 inches right by my upright here, and then so that would set flush. Came back, nailed it on the second rafter back, and nailed it down in here. I'm going to let it hang out here 6 inches, and then I'll put my last rafter, the eave overhang. We're just going to have a 6-inch, but then that'll nail into the end of this. But I'm going to leave these run a little bit long, and then I'll cut the ridge beam and these all at the same time and snap a line on them to try to keep it running straight instead of just trying to keep it to follow the thing. But I figure I'm going to put one here one here, one down here, one here, and then one just on the other side of the block there. And that should have it in pretty good shape. That should make it pretty solid out there, I hope. So I will do a little update in a minute when we see how it's going. Alright, we've got all we can reach from the inside. We cut our little extension ladder blocks, whatever we're going to call them, to make the gable extension end out there. So we got those, so now we're going to go outside, try to trim them to length, run a string, a chalk line, so that we get them, try to get them straight from the peak down to the end, and then we'll try to put up our 2x4, our little flying rafter up there. Okay, finally, I think we got one end done with just that 6-inch overhang. Mainly because I'm not too good on ladders. And thank goodness I had Kathy here to help in that. But we came back, tied into this rafter, and then notched them and put them into this rafter, and then put the other flying rafter out there and nailed it into the ridge board and that. And it feels like it's good and solid. And so this end is done for now. So we are going to go take a break for today. I think we're done. We'll have to tackle the other end tomorrow. This morning I'm working on the decking. Kathy's down at her mom's this morning, so I'm putting the decking here on the porch just so that I can use the ladder out here to go up and make my little gable end that overhangs here. It'd be a lot easier if I put the ladder out here and put the decking down and have a nice stable platform. So I'm going to put probably not all the deck boards, but maybe a couple more, and screwing them down with 3-inch deck screws just so we can get them in and out if we should ever have to, and hopefully if they ever come loose I can tighten them up. I put a piece of house wrap back here to try to seal that off to make sure that we won't get any water down on the floor plywood and have it come apart, and then I'll put another piece over this before we put the T111 over here on this wall, and should have that sealed up pretty good because we're going to try to put a roof over this too so that we have some shade out here to sit in. So that should get it going, but that's what I'm working on now. We decided to go with the 2x6 pressure treated, and then we'll put a coat of stain on it and stuff. It was a lot less expensive than some of the other stuff, so we'll just put that on there, and it should do well, should hold up as long as we put a coat of sealant or waterproofing on it once a year or so. That was our decision anyway. So I'll work on this, and then maybe tomorrow I can get up here and start working on this other little gable end, and then get back to the roofing. Okay, I'm going to leave the porch area, the porch deck here for today. We got that on there, screwed down, looks pretty good. I'm going to leave the last couple boards off just because we got to figure out how to put the porch posts on, and I'm hoping to put them through and secure them down in here, lag bolt them, or put a carriage bolt through and bolt them to the joist so that they're a little more solid at the bottom. And so I think now I may at least start measuring, take a look at this, but not sure if I'll get much done on it today. It's starting to warm.
Get a line and I'll get a pole, honey. You get a line and I'll get a pole, babe. You get a line and I'll get a pole, and we'll go down to the crawdad hole, honey, baby mine. What you gonna do when the well runs dry, honey? What you gonna do when the well runs dry, babe? What you gonna do when the well runs dry? Sit on the bank and cry, 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 honey, baby mine.